Welcome to another crochet tutorial with Cozy Rosie UK. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make your very own granny rectangle. By the end of the video you'll be able to know how to complete the granny cluster and how to increase in your corners so that you can successfully make your very own granny rectangle. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss another one of my crochet tutorials once again, along with all my different free patterns too. So let's grab those materials. So the materials that you're going to need are going to be a 4mm crochet hook. You can use one of these little metal ones, or you can invest in one of these soft handled ones as well. You're going to need a pair of scissors so that you can snip your ends as we work through and change colour on each round. And of course we're going to need some yarn. I'm going to be using a double knit yarn from the Women's Institute. This is a premium acrylic yarn. I find that it doesn't bobble too much, so it's one of my favourites. And it does recommend a hook size of 4mm as well. I have 6 different colours, but you can go for as many or as few as you want. You could even do it in a solid colour if you wanted to. So to get started, grab your first colour, whichever one you've chosen, and we're going to start by making a slip knot. That's probably the smallest slip knot in the world. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you. I'll pop a link just in the corner so that you can go and learn how to make a slip knot and chain if you need to. So once we've got the slip knot on the on the hook, we're going to start by doing a chain of 58. So that's 1, 2, 3. So do a total of 58 chains all the way up. And I will meet you when it's all done. "51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, and finally number 58. So it's quite a long chain, and this is actually going to form the centre of our granny triangle. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to put 3 treble crochets into the 4th chain from the hook. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to yarn over the hook and insert that into the top half of that chain, yarn over just to bring that loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's 1. Then we're going to place another one in there. So that works out. So we've got our chain 3 and 2 treble crochets, and that makes our first granny cluster. As you can see, it's made that hole a little bit larger. That's fine, it's normal, don't worry about that for the moment. So then we're going to chain 1. We're then going to skip the next 2 chains and put 3 more treble crochets into that next. So we skip 2 and then 3 treble crochets into that 3rd chain along, really. So 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to repeat that all the way down. So we skip 2 chains, and then we do 3 treble crochets. Oh, I didn't chain 1. Make sure we chain 1. Skip the next 2, and then put another 3 treble crochets into that next chain. So 1, 2, and oops, didn't go into the hole there. 3. Oh dear. There we go. So as you can see, we're getting these lovely big spaces and we're working into these chains. These will get a little bit bigger, but don't worry, we're going to work on the other side of those on the way round. So we skip 2 and then place another treble cluster into that next chain. So 3 trebles into the same chain. And then to finish that, we chain 1. So we're going to keep doing that all the way down back to the slip knot. So you should end placing 3 trebles into this last chain here. So I will meet you back. So keep working all the way down you're going to skip the next 2 chains and place 3 treble crochets into that next chain and work that all the way down this chain, and I will meet you at the other end. So I've got 3 chains left, so I'm just going to work 3 treble crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and instead of doing the chain 1, I'm going to chain 2 this time, and then I'm going to place another 3 treble crochets back into that same chain hole. And this is us forming the rectangle. So we've got a corner now. You can see that you've got a little bit of a corner, but we need to create the other side. So we're still going to work into that same hole. We're going to do another chain 2. And then again, we're going to do 3 treble crochets into that same spot. You will notice I'm working over my tail yarn here as well at the same time. Don't worry if you struggle holding that all in place. I just kind of pinch it against the side of the work. It just means that we don't have to weave it in at the end. So if you have a little look at that, you have the start of a rectangle. In theory, that's a straight line. So what we're going to do now is, if we have a quick count to make sure that you've got enough, you should have, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 treble clusters. Okay, now to work, we're going to continue to work all the way back down this side, doing the exact same stitch until we reach this end. But to make it really easy for you, you don't have to count. Lots of people say you have to do, skip 2, blah, blah, blah. We are literally working the opposite side of that cluster. So after we've done this last treble cluster, we're going to chain 1, and we know we're just going to work directly on the opposite side of that treble cluster, placing another treble cluster. So working 3 treble crochets and a chain 1 into each, on the opposite side of each of these clusters. So very simply, don't need to worry about that hole. We're working directly opposite this one here. So pop your hook through to yarn over and place another 3 treble crochets. I'm running out of wool here. Come here, naughty one. And a third one. Ooh. Just making sure you're always placing them all in the same hole. So as you can see, they are literally directly opposite each other. So I don't have to count. That's 1, that's 2, and we're going into this one here. So you've got your 3 treble clusters and a chain 1. And we're going to do that all the way back down to the end here. Just grab my ball of wool. And I will do it alongside you. So just keep working along, placing 3 treble crochets into the opposite side of where you did them on the other side of this run. Little chain 1 in between each one as well. And I will meet you back at the other end of this round. It's not a row, is it? It's a round. We're working around. So I will see you in a moment. When we get to this point, this is actually the last chain space we're going to work in. That one that we did, the first cluster that we did using that chain 3, is actually the same as this end here. Okay, so all we need to do in here is place 3 further treble crochets, and then we're going to, oops, I'll just split my wool, that's useful. And then we're going to chain 2, and we're going to slip stitch to the top of this chain 3 here. Pop your hook through and bring it straight through It will neaten up once we do the next round, I promise. So that's the first part of our rectangle already done. So all we need to do now is we're going to finish off this round. Just do a little chain one, grab your scissors and just give it a little snip and just bring that through, okay? Because we're already in the corner space here, we're going to work over this, okay? No, we're not. So once we've finished this round here, we are going to simply grab our next colour, and I'm just going to tie it onto this corner here. Just means that I don't have to worry too much about it slipping around. But I want to make sure I've got enough here to weave in later. So I've just tied it into that corner space there. And we are going to start just putting our hook through, bringing that back round and chaining 3. So 1, 2, 3. Now we're working into the corner space, and these are always going to be the same. So this chain 3 counts as our first treble. So we need to place another 2 treble crochets to make our first treble cluster in this corner. So we've got the chain 3 that we made and 2 trebles, and then we are going to chain 2. We're then going to place the other part of this corner directly in here. So we're going to place another 3 treble crochets. And that gives us our corner space. Now, just like when we make a basic granny square, we're just going to chain 1 to move across here. And then we're going to place another corner into here. So we're going to yarn over, go into that corner space there and place 3 treble crochets. We're going to chain 2. And then we're going to place another 3 treble crochets to create that other corner space. The corners are always the same, just remembering where to put them. So that gives us our 2 corners. And then just like before, we're going to work all the way around down the side. So we're going to do a chain 1 to move across the blocks. And then into each of these big chain spaces, we're going to place the granny stitch, which is 3 treble crochets and a chain 1. We do our 3 trebles and a chain 1, and then we work into the next chain space. Chain 1 to move across the block and straight into that next big chain space. Chain 1 once again to move across. So we're going to work all the way around down to this corner here, and I will meet you there. So just keep placing those 3 treble crochets with a chain 1 in between into those chain spaces that we made on the previous round. Okay, so we've made it back to that corner space. We've got those treble crochets and 1 chain 1 into each of those chain spaces. So I've done my chain 1 to move across this block, and then I'm working into a corner. So we're literally going to mirror what's here. So we're going to do 3 trebles, chain 2 and 3 trebles. So 1, 2 and 3. And then we're going to do that chain 2, which gives us the square shape, and working back into this space here. Exactly the same space, we're going to place those next 3 treble crochets. And there again, we've duplicated that corner shape. We're going to do a chain 1 to move across to the next corner. So then we place the corner shape as well. So another 3 treble crochets. And we do a chain 2. And then we're working back into this same corner again. And this will give us our shape. And I think it's important that we take time to recognize what it should look like, because it helps us as we move through the pattern. We don't have to physically follow the pattern. So as you can see, I'm just going to move that over there, just neaten that up a bit. We've literally duplicated that pattern. So you've got those 4 in the corners, you've got that 1 in between. So if you want to be really forward thinking, you can think ahead to the next round. So this is where you're going to place your next corner, and you're going to have to place 1 treble cluster just above that before you get to your next corner. But before we get there, we're going to work back down all the way along down to this corner here. Okay, so work all the way into this one and do your chain 1, and I will meet you there. This is nearly the end of row 2 already. If you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to pop something in the comments and say, I'm doing it, just so I can keep celebrating along with you with your successes with your crocheting. So pop a comment in the box saying I'm doing it so I can celebrate with you. So I'm all the way back round to my first corner. I've done my chain 1 to move across this block, and I'm simply going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3. Now, if you're struggling to see the top of your chain 3, have a look at what's in your corner. You know you made 2 treble crochets, and there's the loops above them, so the stitches above them. And then next to that is the top of your chain. Now you may see I'm not going in that way. I'm tilting my hook down because I find it easier to scoop up those 2 loops of that chain. Bring that loop through and then straight through that loop on your hook. Now this time I'm going to actually slip stitch into the corner because I'm going to reattach in my corner again. Makes it a little bit easier for reattaching. Done that one? Oh, there it is. You don't have to do this, it just means you save a little bit of weaving in. So once I've slip stitched the corner, I'm going to do my little chain 1, grab my scissors, simply snip that and bring it through. Now I would recommend, if you are making an actual full-size blanket, take the opportunity now to start weaving your ends in, because you don't want to do all of those at the end of it. So we are already at the end of row 2, and you can really start to see how rectangular it is. And it is that chain, that number of chains that you have, that really makes a difference as to how long compared to wide your blanket is going to be. What you will find over on my blog, I'll put the link in the description for you, is there is a downloadable PDF that will give you the there's like 5 different blanket sizes in there, from the cot size all the way up to a king size bed, where you can make all the different chain lengths to make your rectangular blankets as well. So that's the end of row 2. We're going to repeat this again for row 3. Which colour shall we use? Should we go on to purple? No, that's going to look hideous. Let's do some white. Probably would help if I'd got this ready to use. 1 second. Not too bad. Okay. Just need to find the end of this ball, which is buried in here somewhere. I should have shown you I was pulling from the middle, but unfortunately we've had something that's called a yarn bath, so my ball has thrown up and given me more than I needed, but that's fine. I'm going to use it in this blanket, so I don't really mind. We're getting there. This is so soft, this white is absolutely wonderful. Right, nearly there. So once again, we are going to just literally tie on this new colour into the corner. For me, it just makes life a lot quicker, a lot easier, and I know it's secure when I'm doing that first chain 3. So I simply just tie a it's quite tight actually, I'm not going to say it's a loose knot, but it just means that it's secure on there and I can start working away. So that's on. I'm going to hold my tail ends just to the one side so they're not getting in my way. Grab my hook, pop the hook through, bring it back round. I'm going to try and make sure I work over the knots. So I'm going to chain 3, exactly as we did before. And we're simply going to do a further 2 treble crochets, because remember that chain 3 counts as our first treble crochet in that cluster. We're going to chain 2, and that is not in the right position. See how it's over the knot? Let me just redo that. Bring it that side of my knot. There we go. It's going to give us a better finish. It's always worth making the best start. There we go. So let me catch up with you. So I'm going to do chain 3 and 2 further double crochets. There we are, the knot's hidden now. So I'm going to chain 2 because I'm working in this corner space, and I'm working back into the same corner space, placing a further 2 treble crochets. I do not want that blue there. There we go. See, nobody's perfect. There we go. So this time we're going to have to do a chain 1 to move across this block. We have to place 3 treble crochets, not double crochets, into that space before we reach the next corner. So we're going to do another chain 1 before we place this corner in. Okay, so the corner spaces are always the same. You've got 3 treble crochets, a chain 2, and a further 3 treble crochets, all in the same space. Just going to have a little look at this together. So just imagine that's coming down there. So each time we add another row on, the number in between the corners is going to increase. So each time, so next time we're going to have to put them into there before we work into the corners. So it's important that we recognise where these corners are, because these are the only times we're going to do that chain 2, and that will allow us to do it. We only have to do it, there's only 4 corners on a rectangle, aren't there? So again, when we get to this end, we're going to do the exact same. So let's continue to work all the way down this side. So between each block, we need to chain 1 to move across. And then we do the 3 treble crochets into that chain space. And then a chain 1 to move across this one into the next chain space. So I'll meet you down at the other end where the next corner space is, and we'll do that one together. So we've reached all the way back to the next corner space. So let's have a little look before we crack on with that. I've done my chain 1 to move across, and then working into this corner space. Now for me, I find it really easy to recognise where the corner spaces are. You've got 2 clusters coming out of the 1 chain space. So that means that when we're working into this corner, we're going to place another 2 clusters. Just an easy way for me to remember what I'm doing. So we're going to work 3 treble crochets, as we always do for a corner. That's 1, 2, 3. We're going to chain 2 to give us that corner shape. And then we're going to place another 3 treble crochets into the same corner space. So this one doesn't have 2 different clusters coming out. So we're just going to do the chain 1 to move across, and then we're going to place 3 treble crochets into this space. Sorry, there we go. And then once again, we've got those 2 treble clusters coming out of the same corner space. So we're going to chain 1 to move across to that corner and place 3 treble crochets. Chain 2. Oh, and then place another 3 treble crochets into the same corner space. This white is quite slippy compared to the other colours. There we go. We're going to chain 1 to move across this block here, and then we're back to normal. We're just going to place 3 treble crochets and a chain 1. There we go. So as you can see, that is really forming a great shape now. So we're going to keep doing that. We're going to do the treble 3 clusters all the way down to this corner here. We're going to do that chain 1 and then slip stitch to the top of that one there. So keep placing your treble 3 clusters and you chain 1 between each of the blocks, and I will meet you at the other end. So we're back to that corner space again. I've done that chain 1 and we're simply just going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 just to finish that round. And if you want to, and you want to start again in that corner, just slip stitch across the top of all of those, do a chain 1. So you're literally just placing a slip stitch into the top of each of those stitches, chain 1, little snip, pull it through and pull to tighten. So we are already on row 3. Now, depending on how many colours you have and whether or not you want it to be very multicoloured even, you can just have a look at my one that I did earlier. You can do, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many rows do we need? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So a total of 12 different rows. So we're already on row 3, and you can see it works out quite quickly. So I'm going to stay with you while I just attach the next colour. This one's probably going to be too dark to show up at all, because I'm going to put some navy on. Now don't be afraid of using dark colours, because with your granny squares, because you are working into your corners and into your chain spaces, sorry, just trying to find the end. It's here somewhere. There we go. It is actually easier to work with than using than if you were kind of going to start working into these chains here. People are a bit afraid of working with light colours and dark colours. I always encourage people just to practice. You'll get used to using it. Good lighting is key, she says. No, this is probably the worst lighting for this video, but we are trying our best here. So again, I'm just going to literally knot that on, making sure that my knot is the other side of where I just fastened off. And we're going to literally do the same as we've done over the last few rows. I'm just going to make sure all my ends are to one side, so I'm working over them. There we go. Bring that through. Chain 3, which acts as our first treble crochet. Place another 2 treble crochets. That's our first cluster. So you can see you can't really see the stitch definition on this one. This is why it's not the best one. Chain 2. Oh, and then we're going to place another 3 treble crochets to do that corner. And we're literally going to do the exact same thing that we did on the last round. So this time we've got 2 spaces before we get to the next corner. So we do our chain 1 to move across the block, put our 3 treble crochets in, chain 1, another one before we get to that next corner space, chain 1 again, and then we're back into the next corner space. So we're going to do 3 trebles, chain 2, 3 more treble crochets, all in that corner space. So there we go, that's the next round started. So I'll move all that out of the way just so we can see. So I'm going to leave you to do this now, and I'm going to meet you at the end of row 12. So you're just going to keep going all the way down this end till you get to your next corner. So you're going to do the corner space. So you've got 3 trebles, chain 2, 3 trebles, chain 1 to move across your blocks. You've got the other corner here. We're then going to work all the way back down using our treble 3 and our chain 1. And then when we get back to here, we're just going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. slip stitch into that corner, because that way all your tail ends are in the same space. You just work your way through. As I said, you might want to weave some of those in as you go, because you don't want to have, well, you end up with 24 different ends to weave in. So it's worth kind of doing a few as you go along. If you want to, you don't have to change colour every single round. You can change every other round. If you don't change colour, you just slip stitch and do your chain 3 without cutting that yarn, and that'll be easier. So we're going to look for a total of 12 rounds. If you want to be able to follow along with the pattern, I'll put the link, as I said, below in the description box, so you can head on over to my blog, which is cosyrosieuk.co.uk, and you can find the written pattern there. Yeah, so I will catch up with you. Magically, mine will be done in 2 seconds. So just get those 12 rows done, and I will see you back here in a moment, because then we're going to add a pretty edging on. So we're just going to imagine that I've done all 12 rounds, but actually I've decided to make this one a little bit longer and thinner, because I'm going to put it across a window sill to put some plants on. So I've kept it at this size. But just before I finish, I'm going to place an edging all the way around. And my absolute favourite is the shell stitch edging. So I've changed colours, just tied it on as we have done for all the other rounds. Just going to bring that through and do my normal chain 3. And that counts as our first treble. I'm going to place another 2 treble crochets into that same corner space. Once again, I'm working over those edges a little bit. And then we're going to slip stitch into the middle of this cluster. So we've got 1, 2, 3 trebles here, and we want to slip stitch into the top of the middle one here. So there's 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to pop my hook through that middle stitch, grabbing both loops of the stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then just bring that loop through the loop on your hook. We're then going to place 5 treble crochets into that same cluster, that next cluster space, sorry. So that's our normal 3, number 4, and then number 5. And again, we're going to slip stitch to the middle here. So I kind of pull them a little bit and I can see the different stitches. So number 1 almost disappears underneath. So it's just that one there. Pull through, and it gives us our little shell detail at the edging. So all the way around, or across the top, should I say. Oops. We're going to place 5 treble crochets into that next cluster space. And then we slip stitch to the top of that middle treble. So that kind of centers the shell stitch itself. So another 5 into this one. And slip stitch to that top of that middle treble. Do another 5. 5. And this time we're going to slip stitch to the middle as normal, but then in the corners we are going to do it slightly differently. We're just going to place 3 treble crochets and then we're going to slip stitch into that corner, and it just kind of brings it round that corner rather than make it even bigger. So in the corners we're placing 3 treble crochets and then slip stitch into that next middle again, and then we're going to place the next 5 treble crochets. There's 5. And once again, we're going to slip stitch to the top of that middle treble there. And we're going to do that all the way down the side. Oh, you can't see that, sorry. So you just literally work all the way down, placing 5 treble crochets and slip stitching into that middle treble crochet there. 5 trebles all the way down. When you get to this corner here, going to do the same as we did up here. We're just going to place 3 treble crochets. So I'll show you on my finished table runner. This is the big one because I did this all 12 rounds and I've placed this lovely shell stitch edging on it as well. And that is how you make your very own granny rectangle triangle. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I certainly hope you add your shell stitching on there as well because it's my absolute favourite. What I would say is if you have enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, drop a quick comment on the comment box as well, and don't forget to head over to my blog where you can find the written pattern. And if you'd like to join me in my Facebook group, I'll pop a link in the description box for you as well, just so we can kind of spend some more time together getting to learn more crochet stitches and more different crochet techniques. So there'll be another video coming up shortly, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my tutorials, and I'll hopefully see you soon.